Folks, one of the things that comes with playing fighting games is you have to learn a lot of terminology. Some of these terms are really straightforward, like air to air means hit the opponent in the air when you're in the air. It makes sense, but some of these terms really don't make any sense at all, like fuzzy. What is a fuzzy? Nobody knows, but today we're going to be going through a list of the most hated, most dumb, most pointless terminology in fighting games, at least according to the people on my Discord. If you would like to take part in discussions like this in my Discord and have the chance to be featured in a future video, make sure you join the Discord server. The link is in the description, and join up so you can take part. And if you enjoy this type of list content, I would appreciate if you could hit subscribe and like if you enjoy the video. But with that, let's jump right into the list, guys. Alright, so first up is Snicky, who says, my hot take is that Grappler is too ambiguous and isn't that useful. So I kind of get where this is coming from. You know, I feel like the archetype definitions for fighting game characters are pretty loose. You know, most people would say, obviously, like, Zangief is a grappler, but, like, is Makoto a grappler? Is E Honda a grappler? They have command throws. I think it's a little bit up in the air. I do think that calling someone a grappler at least gives you some idea of what they're going to do. Like if you say this guy's a grappler, that means he's got a command throw and he's probably going to be trying to land that command throw as much as possible. But there's definitely a lot of ambiguity there. But I think overall, you know, grappler, Shoto, rushdown, zoner, whatever. I think all these things, they're just there to give you a rough idea of what to expect from the character. And I think Grappler does an okay job with that. So I think Grappler can stay, even if it is, you know, some people's pet peeve. Another one we got from 8 Foot Octopus, so I alluded to this in the intro to the video. Fuzzy is in general bad because it somehow split meanings, yes. Fuzzy means a lot of different things. I'll do a very quick explainer if you're unfamiliar with what fuzzy means. So the first definition of fuzzy is forcing the opponent to stand so that they can get hit by a jumping attack that they normally wouldn't get hit by. So you can see this would hit overhead, but it whiffs on a crouching opponent, so that's not very useful. But if I hit with a jump in first, he actually doesn't have time to crouch, so he will get hit by the overhead. So this works in a lot of games, and that's called a fuzzy or a fuzzy mix or a fuzzy overhead. And the other use of fuzzy is for something called fuzzy blocking or fuzzy guard. If you watch the way I'm moving the stick, I move the stick up for just a fraction of a second, and because the timing between his overhead option and his low option is different, I will basically automatically block the overhead. So that's a really basic example, but that's a form of defensive option select, which is another really confusing term. But generally, any kind of defensive option select like this, where you're doing something with like delayed timing to try to get out of a specific setup, people will call that a fuzzy. There's fuzzy jumping, fuzzy blocking, all kinds of things. So it's really confusing that both these definitions exist at once. And there's also an even more subtle definition that only applies to Virtua Fighter. So it's very confusing. So yeah, that's fuzzy. We should probably think of a new name for some of these to not just call it the same thing. All right, next up from Audials. Old school Street Fighter notation is the most confusing thing. Like, what is a roundhouse? Okay, yes, this one. Oh my God. So again, if you guys don't know, the 6 buttons in Street Fighter: light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, light kick, medium kick, heavy kick. The old school words for these are jab, strong, fierce, short, forward, roundhouse. And literally the only reason why these names exist is because this was what was printed on the arcade cabinet back in the day. Like literally it would say on the buttons, jab, strong, fierce, short, forward, roundhouse. So yeah, these are pretty lame. These are not like included anywhere in the games anymore. It's just something that old school players use. I will say it is kind of nice the way they roll off the tongue. Like down fierce is so much faster than saying down plus heavy punch or down heavy punch. You know, strong, 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 Link with Ryu. Jab, strong, fierce. Like they roll off the tongue, but this medium kick is a real problem. Forward is such a problem. Like down forward, does he mean down plus forward, or like the down forward diagonal? Forward plus forward, like to do like step kick with Ken and stuff. It's awful. So yeah, even though I do use these words a decent amount because, you know, it's just faster, it's habit, I do think that we should probably leave these in the past here. All right, next up from Sirloin of Beef. I was hanging with friends teaching them Tekken. I told them to tiger knee something, and they started doing Shoryuken plus kick tiger kneeing has gotten confusing since they changed the input for it. This is another one. So the reason why their friends were confused was because, yes, in current games, tiger knee is dragon punch motion plus kick. That's literally the move of tiger knee is done with a dragon punch motion. But it didn't used to always be this way. Tiger knee used to be done with this weird motion, down to up forward. It was very strange, and that's why they changed it. I mean, it matches like the arc of the move, I guess. That's the reasoning, is like he kind of goes in that motion. But it's kind of tricky to do, and it's a lot easier just to have it be on a dragon punch. But nowadays, when people say to tiger knee a move, they essentially mean ending a special move input in a jump. So if I do quarter circle forward plus punch with Ryu, I get a fireball. But if I do quarter circle forward, up forward plus punch, I essentially get an instant fireball, or they would call this a tiger knee fireball. So they call it that because it has the same motion as that old Sagat tiger knee motion that I showed you guys. So yeah, it's a little confusing. This is obviously a really important concept to have a word for. So I think we should have something to call this. But you know, if it's too confusing, maybe we could just call it instant air fireball. But you know, that's again not very specific. You could do an instant air fireball by like jumping and then just doing the move fast. So I think tiger knee, even though it is really confusing, it describes a really specific thing, and I don't think we have a better word for it just yet. But if you have suggestions, let me know down in the comments. All right, next one. This one's from Frigo. I am a smasher, and I will never stop calling casuals friendlies. Yeah, it is kind of funny that the FGC and the Smash community will just have different words for stuff for no real good reason. So we call it casual matches or casuals. They call it friendlies. We call it button checks. They call it hand warmers. We call it execution. They call it tech skill. We call it mix-ups. They call it guessies. So yeah, like there's no real reason for these differences. It's just that these two communities, they kind of developed in parallel. You know, it's like how here in America, we've got sockets in the wall that are two straight lines with a dot underneath. And then in Europe, they've got two dots. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't know if we're ever going to come together and start using the same words, but I understand the benefit of friendlies is that casuals, like you can be a casual, like a casual player is also called casual. So it is kind of confusing that it's like, oh, there's a group of casuals over there, and also we're playing casuals at this setup. So I understand that criticism, but friendlies, I don't know. Friendlies just sounds too nice. You know, I'm not trying to have a big smile on my face when I'm playing friendlies. It's a casual match, but I'm still taking it seriously. So I'm gonna keep calling them casuals for now. All right, and then final one here from Leviathan. Not sure if it's already been mentioned, but I find the term footsies hard to conceptualize. Is footsies just neutral? If I throw a fireball from full screen, is that footsies? What about if I'm close? So yeah, I think footsies is maybe one of the most poorly understood concepts in fighting games in general, and one of the most overused pieces of terminology in fighting games as well. So if you don't know the origin of the term footsies, basically we're just talking about this, right? In fighting games, especially Street Fighter, probably is one of the more footsies oriented games. A big part of the game is, you know, sticking out your foot and trying to hit the opponent, or letting the opponent stick out their foot and miss and then punishing it. So that is the most core, pure definition of footsies is, you know, poking in neutral, close to the opponent, trying to stand outside of the opponent's range and trying to hit their outstretched limb with your limbs. That's footsies. That's why we call it that. But footsies is so much more than that. Like if you watch Daigo play, he throws a lot of fireballs from like this range, right? It's outside of sweep range, but it's close enough that the opponent cannot react to the fireball by jumping. So is this footsies? Yes, it is. It is. It's poking, which generally poking is part of footsies. But if we're way back here and we throw a fireball, is this footsies? Not really, because in my opinion, the fireball is not really a poke at that point because it's reactable. It's just something you're using to control space and zone the opponent. So not everything in neutral is footsies, you know? And similarly, you know, if I'm up here like doing this, if I'm mixing the opponent up, you know, going for mix-ups and stuff, that's not footsies either. That's sort of the rushdown slash pressure phase of the match, which is not part of footsies. So in general, yeah, footsies is applied to a million different things, but in general, footsies is the mid-range poking part of neutral, where neither player really has an advantage and you're each kind of trying to get that little hit on the opponent so you can, kind of take your turn and land a combo or a knockdown, or, just get some damage and continue the pressure. So that's Footsies. But guys, what do you think? I'm so curious to hear from you. What are fighting game terms that have always confused or annoyed or bothered you? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear it, and maybe I will reply or react in a future video to some of those and let you guys know what I think about those terms. But with that, we're going to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, make sure to join the Discord link in the description if you want to hang out and have a lot of fun with us for things like this in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.